We're prepared to do what is necessary to avoid these unacceptable consequences, but we will not let haste abandon good judgment in the process. The Bush administration has called on Congress to rubber stamp its bailout legislation without serious debate or efforts to improve it. We can't let that happen. The legislation sent to Congress by the Treasury Department recognizes the scope of the crisis the Bush administration created, a view that we share with Secretary Paulson. But the Bush administration bill is a starting point, but by no means the final product. Democrats believe that there should be protection for the taxpayers who are footing the bill for this legislation. That begins with more oversight, more transparency, more accountability, and more controls to prevent conflicts of interest. Democrats believe that there should be limits on compensation for executives of companies who benefit from this legislation so that the American people don't see their tax dollars spent on exorbitant corporate pay and even golden parachutes. We believe that this legislation should provide aid for Americans at risk of losing their homes to foreclosure. As the law currently stands, the wealthiest Americans can seek mortgage assistance from a bankruptcy judge to help keep their second, their third, their fourth, their fifth, their sixth, their seventh home. But working families can't seek mortgage relief from a bankruptcy judge for their first and only home, their primary residence. That makes no sense, and we should change it. Bankruptcy courts should have the authority to reach mutually beneficial arrangements to allow families to keep their homes and prevent more foreclosures. And we believe that it's not enough to fund a Wall Street bailout simply. We need an economic recovery plan to create jobs, provide better unemployment insurance, invest in our crumbling infrastructure. Now, Mr. President, such a plan has to be voted upon before we adjourn, either as part of this legislation or separately. These steps will help catalyze long-term economic growth once the dust on Wall Street has settled. Democrats in Congress fully understand the severity of this situation and the need to pass legislation, but we're not willing to give President Bush a blank check. Democratic and Republican presidents who served before President Bush all understood that demanding accountability from the financial sector is not somehow anti-capitalist. Just the opposite. It maintains balance, protects taxpayers, and keeps our economy running smoothly. But the greed-fueled Bush-Cheney administration thought they knew better. They put cronies and ideologues in charge of our most critical regulatory agencies, people who disdained government oversight of any kind and systematically put Wall Street ahead of Main Street. Just one example of this irresponsibility, the Bush administration refused to provide oversight of the mortgage industry to ensure that the rules were followed. The result was massive fraud, predatory lending, the practice of preying on American families with deceptive, dishonest loans. Now, Mr. President, we all know the banking industry has been deregulated. The few regulations left were not enforced. And now we find an article written by Senator McCain in one of the health journals saying that he thinks that the healthcare industry should be deregulated just like the banking industry. How about that, Mr. President? It's in writing. President wannabe McCain has written an article saying that we should treat the health industry just like the banking industry. Now that is enough said about how Senator McCain is going to take care of the problems of this country economically. This hands-off, business-first Bush-Cheney economic philosophy infiltrated nearly all aspects of our economy, from mortgages to consumer safety to airline industry. And the people of America are now left to suffer the consequences. Democrats understand that the two primary responsibilities of government are to protect the people's physical and fiscal well-being. Whatever the ultimate cost of this legislation, we will always remember that these funds don't come from some nameless government account. Every dollar comes directly out of the pocket of every American taxpayer. Every dollar should have been saved for someone's secure retirement. Every dollar could have been invested in health care for the uninsured, education for students, or to fund a small business startup. We Democrats understand the value of each and every dollar spent on this plan because we know that each and every dollar comes from the American people. We will work on ending hours in a bipartisan manner to ensure that we don't just get this legislation done, but we get it done right.